polio eradication, and child survival initiative worldwide, with over 3 decades of leadership in pediatric healthcare. We welcome you, sir. Over to
Thank
you.
you. Thank you. Can you stop? Uh, yeah. So thank you so much, Srestha, and my regards to Rosemary, Christine, and Antonio for joining this webinar, and everyone who has joined. And we are also, I suppose, doing a live streaming through all our social media channel. So I'm very happy to see the topic. Nowadays, there is a lot of, we know that immunization is building block of primary health care. We know this since 1974 as it developed. And if we really, there is no other intervention which reaches to the community as immunization. And routine immunization, we reach to 85 countries now. In India, more than 85% are we are reaching. And when we did the polio immunization, we reached to 99% of the children. So if we now, with all the geopolitical to support you on how you can integrate and what can be done. Thank you so much. And I will take your leave, Rosemary, Christine, Antonio, because tomorrow early morning I am traveling to Lisbon. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Naveen, for those comments. Once again, welcome everyone to this wonderful webinar about Every Visit Counts, linking immunization and well child care to early childhood developmental monitoring. As you heard Dr. Naveen saying, they managed to reach 99% of children through their polio campaign in India. And this is an emphasis that every interaction with a child and a caregiver is an opportunity to identify strengths, recognize concerns early, and encourage responsive caregiving and help families build the foundations for healthy development. So today's discussion, I hope, will challenge us to rethink routine child health contacts as a gateway, not only for survival, but for thriving. So please allow me to introduce our first speaker of the day. I would like to introduce Dr. Christine Karanja Chege. Next slide. So Dr. Christine is a leading pediatric infectious disease specialist. She's a lecturer at Kenyatta University and chair of Pediatrics Medical Advisory Committee at Gertrude's Children's Hospital. She trained at the University of Nairobi and University of Oxford, and she's currently pursuing a PhD in global child health. She's a dedicated advocate for child health, immunization, and antimicrobial resistance, and she's helping shape pediatric healthcare across Africa. So now I'm looking forward to her talk where she talks about the science as to why vaccines support early childhood development. Welcome, Dr. Christine.
Thank you very much for that kind introduction. And I think my slides are loading because I'm using my phone, so I will not be able to. So maybe somebody can share my slides. And as they do so, I will quickly grab a charger for my phone.
Today we have been having a few technical challenges, but we have managed to find solutions. So Dr. Christine, back to you.
I just want to confirm my phone is charging before. We can carry on?
Yes, please go ahead.
Today's part of my talk is titled Beyond, please bring back the previous slide. Beyond Survival, How Vaccines Enable Childhood Development. Next slide. And I will cover the following in brief. We'll talk about the benefits of immunization, the state of vaccination of the world's children. We look at a vaccination schedule just to familiarize ourselves. We look at beyond survival because to see what else vaccines do when we frame them through the ECD lens. We look at the new frontiers on vaccination and look at the developing brain as a target for immunization. And then because I'm an infectious disease specialist, I must talk about how infections affect our developmental trajectories. Then we make a case for immunity being a cause for human capital, for promoting human capital. And we will hand over to the next speaker. So can go to the next slide. So this is just a busy slide that in a nutshell summarizes the benefits of vaccination in three parts. There is a public health benefit where, because we know that we have 4 to 5 vaccine preventable deaths worldwide. If we vaccinate our children, we have a huge public health impact by reducing hospitalization, disability, and long-term complications from vaccine preventable diseases. And we also have had protection once we build our immunization to over 90%. We protect those who, by virtue of age or immune status, are unable to get vaccines for themselves. So the next arm of benefit of vaccination is the equity benefit. Vaccines are one of the most equitable public health benefits that can be rolled out in a society because they cover everyone regardless of socioeconomic status. Again, for the purpose of our talk today, Immunizations Clinic provides an avenue to holster other child health interventions, including ECD. Again, they are the vulnerable populations, for example, people in conflict areas, and this population is rising, people in remote areas, nomadic tribes, and other underserved communities, including urban communities. So that vaccination is equitable for all. And again, I'll make a case for the economic benefit of vaccination because when you vaccinate children, you prevent them from getting illnesses that make them hospitalized, removing their disrupting family systems, making caregivers not go to work and have to care for them. So, and again, when you have sick children, they do not attain their educational potential, and hence they end up not being the most productive adults later on in life. Next slide, please. So, just in a nutshell, this is the state of the world's children in terms of vaccination. 85% are receiving DTP3, and DTP3 is usually the surrogate marker for immunization coverage. So 85% is a stagnation, because in the last half a decade or so, we've been at around that figure. We have not yet attained 90%, so we still have 5 points to go. And then there is the zero dose. Zero dose meaning that these ones have not received the first dose of DTP1, and there are 14 million globally. So we have this global target to reduce the zero dose children by 50%, achieve 90%, every country to achieve 90% immunization coverage, and then we shall be getting somewhere. And again, in terms of future direction, as directed by the Immunization Agenda 2030, which is the current for this decade, we are using a life course vaccination. Life course immunization, life course approach to health is what is being done now. So not just the children, but looking at the human being along the lifespan. Same case for ECD. So we have points at which we can anchor our ECD strategies. So next slide, please. And this is our booklet, which I love very much. This is our booklet from Kenya. It's called the Mother and Child Health Handbook. And the reason I've put this handbook there is not to boast about Kenya, although that is a little bit of my intention, but to say that we should move away from using an immunization card to using a booklet, because a booklet allows us to look at the child as a whole along the 1,000 days of life, where life begins at conception, and along the most impactful area where we can put interventions to make sure that this child is an all-round, growing well, developmentally achieving the milestone all round. So this is a booklet that not only records vaccines, but records many other things. Next slide. I don't intend that you look in detail inside that very small picture, but this is to show the routine immunization schedule in Kenya. I know you cannot see, but we have revised it. You can see it's 2026, and it is spanning across the lifespan. So with each vaccine that we introduce, including COVID and HPV, we just position it along the lifespan. So that is why I have not called it the routine childhood immunization schedule. I've called it the routine immunization. And the other reason for putting it there is to show us that there are points along which we can anchor any other child intervention that we would intend to do. So all those represent visits. Next slide. So let us reframe vaccines through an ECD lens, because that's what we are talking about today. So we are looking at vaccines as just not a survival intervention, but a developmental intervention. We don't want just children who just exist. We want children who thrive. So vaccination is going beyond just preventing disease to protecting a child's ability to learn, to grow, and reach their full potential. Next slide, please. So what is early childhood development? And I will not belabor, I'm speaking to the choir and to experts better than me in ECD, but ECD encompasses the physical, cognitive, language, social, and emotional development of children from conception through early childhood, with an emphasis on the first 1,000 days. Next slide. And it is anchored in the nurturing care framework, which has 5 pillars. The 5 pillars are good health, adequate nutrition, responsive caregiving, security and safety, and early learning opportunities. So, pillar 1, that is good health, is supported very much by vaccines. Next slide. And now we have a new frontier of vaccination. I know the new kid on the block in the immunization world is maternal and early life vaccination. So we are vaccinating the mother so that we start protecting the baby from in utero, and we can protect the baby in utero by, one, preventing maternal infections that cause fever and adverse outcomes in the fetus. And again, we can vaccinate the mother so that we pass transplacental antibodies to the infant to protect them early infancy when they are not able to get their own antigens. Examples we have are tetanus. We know neonatal tetanus was a leading cause of neonatal mortality, but through the widespread use of the vaccination, which is actually make a case for meningitis. So we know that meningitis, particularly bacterial meningitis, can really progress fast. And for the survivors, they may have hearing loss, they may have long-term behavioral and learning difficulties. And so with vaccination, particularly H influenza type B, pneumococcal vaccine, and as well as meningococcal vaccine, those directly protect the infant from bacterial meningitis. We also have measles. We know that measles can even lead to later sequelae like the subacute sclerosing panencephalitis. And measles itself, we have seen, because measles is making a comeback with the reduced immunization, with a low uptake, we can also have measles encephalitis. So pertussis again can cause febrile convulsions and other neurological effects. And then, of course, when we have systemic infections, even sepsis, we can have a lot of inflammation that can alter the developmental trajectory of the child. Next slide. So vaccines also protect growth and nutrition. So vaccines are not only, proper development does not only rely on the absence of infection, but also on proper growth and nutrition. So when you have rotavirus diarrhea, and I know the pediatricians here, every one of us have taken care of children with rotavirus, particularly before the vaccine era. We had whole wards full of children dehydrated. Sometimes would have to give fluids through the bone marrow route. So rotavirus has really made a difference. And you've also noticed that sometimes when children get severe rotavirus, they actually get a regression of milestones. And unfortunately, in low income countries where there is already underlying malnutrition, this can really set them back. And we know that when you have acute malnutrition and then you go to stunting, which is chronic malnutrition, if you don't address this, the next thing is head circumference falling off below the calf, and the next thing is a poor achievement of your intellectual milestones. So we do need to advocate for vaccines so that we protect our growth and nutrition. Next slide. Vaccines support school readiness and learning, because when we have well children, like these ones that you can see on that picture, well children have fewer illnesses. I don't mean that they will have fewer colds, they'll just have fewer severe illnesses that hospitalize them and alter their developmental trajectories. So when children have fewer illnesses, they feed better, they interact better, so they grow better. And children who interact better with the environment, because they are not always in the hospital, they have improved cognition. They are well prepared to learn. By school readiness means a child whose brain is ready to take up new things. They are not living in an adverse environment from infections and all that. So when they go to school, they are able to learn and they achieve their educational milestones. Next slide. So those are direct effects of vaccines. We do have indirect effects of vaccines. Vaccines ensure that families have well-being, because parents are not stuck with sick children in the ward. They are not always making hospital visits, so they do not miss work. So there is less absenteeism at work. So they are more productive, even those who are self-employed. So they have better finances. And when parents who are not stressed are able to have responsive caregiving, so they can foster nurturing interactions with their children because they are not stressed out from lack of money. And then they can direct household resources to nutrition and to other activities that foster the development of the child than just keeping on going to hospital. Next slide. So when the children achieve their educational milestones, they get good education, they are able to be adults who can now contribute to the growth of the country. That first statement is a statement that we use in advocacy in immunization, that every dollar you invest in immunization will generate approximately 16 to 26 in economic returns, from avoiding healthcare costs, lost wages, and productivity losses. So we need to view immunization through this economic lens. So a healthy child is a ready learner who becomes a productive adult, and these productive adults build a stronger society, and the circle of life continues. So eventually, this is through healthy communities, that's how we are able to move from low socioeconomic status as a country to higher socioeconomic status. Next slide. So I'm coming to the end of this very short presentation with a call to action to the pediatricians and any other child health advocates and workers that are on this platform, that we are the champions of vaccination, and we need to look at vaccination not just as survival, but as protecting our children. We don't just want surviving children, we want thriving children. So pediatricians and child health workers are among the most trusted voices for families and communities. I know you know that. So every time that you are there recommending a vaccine, and every vaccine visit should be an opportunity to protect not only the health, but also the child's developmental potential. Next slide. So remember, as I wrap up, that vaccines are not just for preventing death, they are for protecting development. Vaccines protect brains and growth and learning. They are the foundations of human potential. Immunization visits are opportunities for ECD interventions, as the next speaker will tell us. And vaccination is an investment in future human capital. And with that, I bring it to a close, and I thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much, Dr. Christine, for that enlightening presentation. And I hope you heard her call to action. So if you support ECD, you must support vaccines, because vaccines will make sure that our babies are healthy and that their brains get the opportunity to grow and reach their maximum potential. Now, I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Antonio Rizzoli Cordoba. I hope I said it correctly. He is such a passionate ECD member of the ECD committee in IPA. And I can tell you that he goes above and beyond and even uses his personal resources to promote ECD in Mexico and indeed in the region. So Dr. Antonio Rizzoli Cordoba is a leading developmental and behavioral pediatrician and pediatric neurologist from Mexico. He founded and leads the Developmental and Behavioral Pediatrics Service at Hospital Infantil de Mexico, Federico Gomez, and is a professor at National Autonomous University of Mexico. He's the creator of Mexico's National Child Development Evaluation Test, used for over 3.5 million children. He is internationally recognized for advancing child development, neurodevelopmental care, and early childhood intervention. So now he's going to tell us how we link each immunization visit with early childhood developmental support. Thank you, Dr. Antonio.
Thank you for the invitation. Muchísimas gracias por la invitación. And well, in the next few minutes, I would like to start telling one message that we have to reinforce. That is that vaccination doesn't cause autism. And one of the huge challenges that we have right now across the globe is the idea that always pop up in the minds of parents. It's about why should I vaccinate with the MMR vaccine or against measles vaccine if it causes autism? And sadly, it has been cost a lot of millions of dollars in research. And it had been funded any non-connection between them. But in the ideas of the parents is a huge problem. What is the link that the parents associate with the vaccines and autism? Is that closely the parent says, my child was speaking, but suddenly they remember that they went to vaccination, and that is a major event that has a date. And they are going to recall that, and it's present on the memory. And then They are going to notice that the child is not speaking or is not telling something or is not expressing ideas. And they're going to say, oh, he was telling mama before or papa, and suddenly it stops saying some things. And that is some challenging thinking for the parents. So we need to reinforce the idea that the vaccines are very important. As Dr. Rosemary said, we promoters of ECD is also be promoting vaccination, and it cannot be unlinked. But we have to reinforce the idea that first, autism and other neurodevelopmental conditions are conditions of life that are present since birth and not caused by anything. And also are not in this neuroaffirmative point of view diseases that should be treated. And they are conditions that we need to be helping children to achieve their best potential and to let them be the best version of themselves, not compared with other people, but by themselves. So I'm going to share with you the national chart of vaccination, that is national chart of health right now in the country. As an example, this is for free. You can check it across the cross. And this is the national chart. It's in Spanish because it's from Mexico. But one of the things that it's important is that since 2023, now the national chart of vaccination includes theirs that it says that uh, yes, we need to have health. We need to be weight and height to know the growing of the children, but also vaccination that belongs and the action to prevent diseases, and also a test for diseases and child developmental evaluation according to age. And as Dr. Rosemary said, but I am honored to be the moral author of the CDE test, or Prueba Evaluación del Desarrollo Infantil in Spanish, that is now used as the mandatory screening tool for children in Mexico and also in Peru. And one of the things that I would like to reinforce is the idea that it's important to check the points with the vaccination. Now, for example, this is very important in the chart, and it's something that connects directly the points of contact with the vaccination and also with development, because we have seen here, at least in Mexico and in some countries in Latin America, and I would like to hear from you your perspective, that the parents go to the primary health physicians very often in the first year of life because they have programmed vaccinations. And unfortunately, there are still the medical conception of development in which the parent says, okay, I have to go with the primary care physician or the primary care nurse or the primary care professional to well-being visits. It's based mainly on height, weight measurement, and vaccination. But we need to include that the ECD component, and for that, this is some part of the national chart that is it's in Spanish, but it's at 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, and every 6 months. And it has the motor, the language, and the social skills. And as it says, is okay, if I am a parent and I see that my child doesn't count when I speak, or I raise him or her like the image is saying, I should go to my primary care facility to have a child developmental evaluation. But this is also an opportunity to check for vaccination, because maybe the first point is that, for example, this document is given as the child is born in the hospital, and maybe first you have to point the data from the vaccination, and they are going to go for vaccination, and then you should ask if you check the development, and as it is in the national international chart, it's helping to the national document. It's helping to point that ideas, but also in the opposite. Maybe if suddenly I am a mother or a father, and I am seeing that the child uh, doesn't respond to no when it's said at 1 year, maybe I am going to go to the primary care facility, but also I should check if they are having the vaccine. So it's a huge link that we need to do. And well, this is for different ages, but also in the chart, it's important other diseases. But this is the vaccination scheme in Mexico, and there is the recommendation of the vaccination from hepatitis, the DPT, rotavirus, pneumococcus, etc. And one of the points that in the beginning the parents helped to go for the vaccination is that when you give the document, some people write in I forgot the word. It's pencil. Yes, I think that it's pencil, that it's erased. And you can point here. Okay, the next date for your application maybe could be what it's that it's going to have the number of vaccine to check for security measures. But for example, here at 2 months, I am going to put here if he was born today. Maybe I would say in 1 month. It's going to be July, and maybe you could come to your visit for this in August, and then I have it in pencil, and I'm going to erase it, and then I'm going to use that. So it's important to link and to use the documents where we write the vaccination, always to check that, but also we can use to say, okay, have you checked that? Do you think about that? And also something that it's important is physical activation and screening tools. This is for nutrition, but also as Dr. Rosemary said, and as they were telling, the five points for the nurturing care, that it's also important to take in account, because nutrition is very important, good health, but good health is ethnic necessities. In Mexico, we have the national law for protection of child, for children and adolescents. And one of the rights that they have is the right for health. But also, we have to take an idea that the right come with an obligation. I have the right to have the best health possible outcome, and to have the best primary care and the best health services provided, but also I have the obligation to use them. And it's something important that we need to encourage the parents to say, okay, first of all, one challenge that we could find with vaccination and the development is that if the child is not recognized as a people with rights in their own, that it's very important. And in the majority of the countries across the world, they have adopted and reinforced the idea of the UN Child Rights Commission, that it says that the child had rights, and specifically the general observations of the 2006, where the children younger than 5 years old are have rights in their own. It is very important to say to parents, okay, you have the right to decide, but your child have the right to have the best outcome possible, and is an individual with rights. And that means that in the case of vaccination, the vaccination is impacting directly to your child because it's helping him. And it's helping also the community. That it's something that happens with the effect, for example, with the poliovirus and the vaccination. In that idea, practitioners is very important to reinforce that idea. Sadly, in Mexico, sometimes it's like, okay, you want him to be vaccinated, convince him. And that's a misunderstanding because the point that I am going to convince a child and to say, okay, I am going to give you, I am going to puncture you, and it's something that is going to maybe to cause you pain. Are you willing to accept that? Children doesn't understand the consequence, the long-term consequences of the vaccination, because the vaccination is not going to have an effect immediately. And hopefully the effect is that we're never going to see that disease. And it's something that sometimes the parents in that changing idea of, okay, my child have rights and he has the right to participate, so you have to ask him if he is willing to receive the vaccine, is a misunderstanding and it's a misconception that it's important that we take in account. Why? Because, again, the child of 2 years old is not going to be able to say or to understand the idea of that the vaccination, the best goal of the vaccination is that you're never going to be any effect of the vaccination, because you're going to, the effect is that you're not going to beat the disease. And it's a misconception with the participation of children that is different, that you could explain. And you could say, okay, I am going to puncture you because it's important for your health. And sadly, at least in Mexico, we have a huge challenge in the national campaigns of vaccination. Uh, you are arriving to homes to in the when we have the national Mexican campaigns, and we were home to home to check if they have the poliovirus vaccine, and they see and it says, "Are you vaccinating pets? Oh, please come, of course." But if you say, "Oh, I am going to vaccinate your child," they said, okay, you have to convince them. Sometimes we have the idea, at least in Mexico and in some countries in Latin America, that, okay, vaccination is very, very good for the pets, but for my child, maybe it could cause some harm. Or the idea that in high income families, they are not going to be exposed to the virus. And this is something that is challenging, and it's something that is problematic. And right now, something that we have been seeing in Mexico is that we have, again, sadly, the increase in measles, and not imported cases, but in cases uh, from Mexico. And why? Because we have challenges with the vaccination, because they are afraid of vaccinate, because or I am not going to be exposed to that, or because my child have the right to decide if it's going to be vaccinated or not. That is a misconception again. Or because it could cause autism. And sometimes it's seen at the same ages. Again, what we have to say is, okay, take into account that if you had a vaccine with a date, you are going to be remembered that, and a specific event, and a remarking event. And if suddenly after that you start seeing that he or she is not speaking, you're going to say, okay, it's because of the vaccination, or you're not going to think that what's happened before. And something that we need to give as a message is, for example, sometimes it's common that the child start to say mama, 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 or papa, papa, papa. That is mama, that is mother, mom in Mexico, or for example, mom, 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 mama, mama, mama. That is more complicated. But in that idea, maybe what it's happening is that the child is just opening and closing the mouth, and it's doing some sounds. And the mother or the parent says, oh, he's saying mom. And the child maybe is not linking the word with the conception of mother, and suddenly they vaccinate the child, and after they start to see that they stop saying mama, and maybe it's because he or she is thinking now the words, and it's assimilating, according to Piaget, that idea of the words, or according to Vygotsky, he or she is having this social acquirement of language, and they are stopping to say mama, and they say, oh, that is a problem, because 1 month ago he was telling something and suddenly it stopped saying. And that is an idea that I recommend you to talk to them, that vaccines doesn't cause autism. It has something in common with the timeline, and it's like aversive conditioning. And I'm going to give you an example about that. If I am during the day, I went to my favorite restaurant, and I ate what I always ate. And in the afternoon, I went and I maybe ate something during the afternoon, etc. But in the night, I am going to start feeling me bad. I am going to have the idea that what causes me the disease is my important or my transcendental event that was my favorite restaurant. And maybe what causes me sick was something that I did in the afternoon. It's the same idea. Tell that. Check the stories of the people that it's saying that are against the vaccination, because maybe the stories is not that they are not true. It's just that it's the important thing that they remember, but they doesn't understand the rest. And that is, again, the connection, because something in Mexico that we have been speaking is about the neuroaffirmative focus on neurodivergences. And one of the things is, for example, if the child at 1 month it doesn't cry or make noise, or is not quiet, or being calm when you talk to him, maybe could be neurodivergent. If he is not responding to the games or the play, where am I, etc., or does make sounds, and it's not, and it's documented and it's seen, because one of the perceptions of the families that we have an article that shows that for the parents, some activities like hugging, sleeping, it's not as important. It's not important for development. It's important for them because they are parents, and they consider that hug is important, but they doesn't think that it enlightens the brain, or that maybe they think, okay, I'm going to talk to him because he's not understanding, because he's not speaking. And if we have this idea of marking development and to start giving recommendation at that point, when it comes to the age of 18 months, when is the mandatory recommendation for autism in a lot of countries. In Mexico, we have the screening tool across the different ages, but this point is not just going to pop the point that, okay, right now I had vaccination and then I had the autism detection and now it's having a risk, because maybe the risk has been since they were younger, and it's important. And we need to tell them that also the receptive attention is important, and the safety and protection and the opportunity for learning are important. But the vaccination is going to allow them, because the vaccination is not only protecting the child, it's also protecting the other children. And it's a message that is also important. Why? Because my rights end when the rights from the other people start. And we need to tell them that idea. And I am going to close with that idea that we have these in the national chart. For example, here is vaccination, is dental, ophthalmological, auditive, but also neurodevelopmental screen. And we have to be writing here that we did that screening, and we have in this consultation all of the process that we have to do. And we have to link vaccination with development. We have to work every day to be ambassadors of the message, unfortunately, but it's something important, that vaccination doesn't have to have anything wrong with development, and they are independent activities, and that child development should be thinking as a matter of rights for the children, with the obligation of the adults to commit to that, and also with the obligation of the health providers to promote vaccination and give all the evidence against the misconception or in favor of all the benefits that they have. Otherwise, we're going to have pandemics again from diseases that should be controlled, and it really are going to affect. Thank you so much for the time, and I hope that it could be helpful.
Thank you so much, Antonio. I think we can all see your passion for early childhood development. And I'll also say it for you. Vaccines do not cause autism. And I think it's something that we have to say and say out loud so that everybody can hear it. I would also like to commend Mexico for including the nurturing care framework in their healthcare booklet. I think that's something that maybe as Kenya we can look to include, but I think we've also done a lot of work on our booklet. So thank you for sharing that. And another thing that you said, it's so interesting that people are willing to vaccinate their pets, but not their children. So I think we need to really continue this discussion. So we're about to come to a close, and I can see that there are no questions that have been posted. So I just wanted to get your parting shots, starting with Dr. Christine. What do you want people to really take home today?
Thank you very much. In my closing remarks, because I'm coming from an infectious disease and vaccines background, I want to just urge us to, whatever country we come from, let us rise up and be immunization advocates. Yeah, as Rosemary and Antonio said, let us debunk the myths. Yeah, because we are the most trusted custodians of children's health and of information. So if we start giving the right information, then we shall quickly drown out the very few but extremely loud voices that are propagating these myths. Remember, at the bottom of all this, parents actually want to do the best for their children. So let us support them to do it through vaccination. And yeah, that's my parting shot.
Thank you so much. Dr. Antonio?
And thank you so much for the time. And again, we need to reinforce the idea that they are together and is important to vaccinate, but also for my child, but again, also for the other children, and that we need to link the visits and to use the vaccination visit to promote ECT and the ECT visits to promote vaccination, because in that way, we're going to help the immune system, and we're going to try to guarantee the best health possible with the preventable diseases, but also to give knowledge to the parents to promote ECD. And in that way, we're going to avoid fear of causing something bad. Because at the end of the day, everything is a challenge, and it's a concept that is called calculated risk. I always said to the parents, have you crossed the street today? Yes. Why? Because I have to go to the other side. Do you know that it exists the probability that you got an accident? Yes, but you understand that it's more important to cross than the probability to have that accident, because it's important for you to do. Is that calculated risk that we need to encourage and to understand the risk of a pandemic of preventable diseases is here, and in some cases is starting to appear. And it's more important to prevent that. Everything could have some side effects, but what is more important, the side effects that we know that it's very rare, or the side effect that we know that it's going to be very probable and it's going to be very important. And I invite you to use that idea of the calculated risk with your patients to get that. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much for those remarks, Dr. Antonio. So as we conclude today's webinar, I really want to emphasize that early childhood development does not occur separately from routine healthcare. It's deeply embedded within every immunization encounter, every growth monitoring visit, every conversation with a caregiver. If you remember, Dr. Christine said WHO says around 85% of children get DTaP3, and they're looking to get to 90%. How many opportunities are those for the simple act of asking about play, communication, behavior? Do the caregivers have any concerns, or even developmental milestones, which can profoundly shape a child's future and strengthen a family's confidence in caring for their child? So when we intentionally integrate developmental monitoring and nurturing care into routine services, we move beyond delivering interventions to building human potential. So let us leave today with the shared commitment that every contact with a child and caregiver truly counts, and that within these everyday moments lies an extraordinary opportunity to help children survive, thrive, and reach their full potential as we continue to care for every child, every age, everywhere. So I'd really like to take this opportunity to thank our amazing speakers today. I'm sure we have learned a lot. I'd like to thank the IPA team for all the background work, preparing the posters, for all the technical support. And let me hand back over to the team. Thank you so much and have a good evening.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rosemary. It was a very insightful and delightful session. Now you all can see your feedback form can be there's a QR scanner that through which you can scan and fill a feedback form through which you will get a certificate for the webinar, and you can follow us on our social media platforms for further updates and webinar sessions like these. Thank you so much.